Alright, hello, and welcome to Camel Finance. I'm your boy Camel, and where have I been for the last 2 days? Well, Plan B says on days like this, he likes to switch off his monitors and go for a run. Me, I like to go fishing, so I've spent the last couple of days on the beach. You don't want to be this guy, not picking on this guy, but you know things are bad when you're glued to the 1 minute chart. I mean, what use is that? Staring at 1 minute candles, that's going to achieve nothing, is it? So, go fishing, go for a run, spend some time with your family. There's really no point in watching a 1 minute chart. That's not going to help you at all. So go and enjoy life. And in the meantime, let's get back to business. Just in, Bitcoin is technically oversold, says the director of global macro for Fidelity. Fidelity, of course, being a asset manager for $4.5 trillion worth of capital. And it's not just this guy that thinks Bitcoin is oversold. It's me and it's T Analyst too. Got this from T Analyst. Today here is only the 5th day in Bitcoin's history that the daily RSI 1000 is less than 50. Here we go. Here's 5, and I've got a visual of that he's provided, which is nice. So you can see RSI 49.88, 49.89, so on and so forth, so on and so forth, and then here we are today. Okay, this is only the 5th time it's ever happened, and you can't deny the chart. The chart is the chart, right? Every time this happened and the RSI came down to these levels, that marked the bottom, that marked the low. Now in a couple of these incidences, like here, we went sideways for a while before we actually went up, and here we went sideways for some time before we went up. I think it would be somewhat unrealistic to expect a V recovery here, but I also think it's a little bit unrealistic calling for 14k. Now absolutely everything is on the table, but in terms of oversold, in terms of being oversold, we are right there. More confluence. Look at these. Every single time we V up and we start an uptrend. So is the selling nearly over? Well, the new pool kind of suggests that it might be. So you can see here the 0 line marks capitulation, and every time we come into this we make a higher low, and that's exactly what we've got here. So this is more confluence to say that we may be approaching a bottom quicker than a lot of people are expecting it. And if you're wondering why these lows get higher every time, not to say that we couldn't breach this low, but typically speaking, the reason you get higher lows is because at this point in time, there was an awful lot of time in the market that you could have bought and ended up in a loss. But fast forward to the next time, the next bear market, and even if you'd bought this peak and that peak, okay, then you were still in profit at the low of the bear market because the low is above these prior highs. So this is why the longer you hold Bitcoin, the more likely it is that you're going to be in profit, okay, even at the depths and the bottoms of the bear markets. There's a ton of fear out there. A 7 print, that's insanely low. I think that's as low as I've ever seen it. Of course it's coming off the back of a whole bunch of craziness, but stick around because I'm going to show you why it's actually not coming off of any of this craziness, and all of this craziness is kind of irrelevant. So first of all, we had the Terra Luna blow up. Then we had the major crypto bank Celsius tank, and so this is not good. I feel bad for the people that were involved in those two things. The Celsius, I think, is going to be sued now or something. Anyway, and then on top of that, 3 Arrows Capital are facing possible insolvency after unforeseen liquidations. And so all around the internet are rumors and theories circulating that this is going to be the end of the crypto market and that this is what's caused the dip and blah, blah, blah. But as you've probably heard me say a bunch of times before, every dip has its narrative, okay? Yes, this all seems very scary, but look at this. Bitcoin is still moving perfectly with the iShares Expanded Tech ETF. So on this chart here, the candlesticks being Bitcoin and the teal line, the blue line, being the Expanded Tech ETF. As you can see, people are talking about forced liquidations, Celsius, 3AC, 3 Arrows Capital, but we aren't seeing Bitcoin fall more or less than stocks. So if all of this stuff, the forced liquidations, Celsius, etc., Luna, if all of that stuff was actually the driving force on top, if that stuff was actually carrying weight, if that stuff was actually impacting Bitcoin's price, wouldn't you expect this to be significantly below the stocks, the tech stocks? And it's not. So that tells you that, like I'm always saying, every dip has its narrative, and this narrative is is just not the causality in this particular case. The price action seems logical. The UK's digital minister, Chris Phillip, says that the country intends to be a global crypto centre. So this is good news, and I believe this to be true, but it also reminded me that quite recently I saw this reiterated. The Bank of England, if you invest in Bitcoin and crypto, prepare to lose all of your money. So this has come out fairly recently, as you can see yesterday, but I've also seen this. This is a headline that gets recycled. I saw this in 2018. I saw it before then as well. This is a recycled headline that they just use towards the bottoms. So that is what it is. Bloomberg, however, got a different approach. They say 20k might be the new 5k. What do they mean by that? Well, the senior analyst is suggesting that 20k is the new 5k for Bitcoin as the bottom. Okay, for a long time, 5k was the bottom of Bitcoin. And he's suggesting that 20k may just be the new bottom for Bitcoin. The largest Bitcoin whale has purchased an additional 927 Bitcoin for $20 million this month alone. So it's not just these guys and me that think we're incredibly close to a bottom. It's also these big whales. This is a very good example of remembering that for every time you buy, someone has to sell it to you, and every time you sell, there's someone there on the other side to buy from you. So if you're selling down here at the moment, then you're selling to people like this whale who are more than happy to buy your Bitcoin at these levels. Whales are not the only ones buying. Omega whales, Giga Chads, like Michael Saylor, they're also considering buying more at these prices. Bitcoin is on sale. People are mocking Michael Saylor at the moment. People are very quick to say he's irresponsible and he's stupid and all of this stuff, but the price does not matter. People are worried, oh, he's going to get margin called. He's not going to get margin called, okay? He's not going to get margin called. He's got everything he needs in place. He's borrowed fiat currency to buy Bitcoin. Fiat currency is being debased, okay, at record levels. It will continue to trend towards zero. Bitcoin's not going to trend towards zero, okay? It's not. Michael Saylor, the price doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me. It doesn't matter to anyone that understands Bitcoin, and it especially doesn't matter to Michael Saylor. The reason it doesn't matter is because he's going to continue to buy it, whatever the price, and it's binary. If it goes to zero, then he'll care. And if it goes to millions, then he'll also care. And people will bow down and worship at his feet and say, oh, we always knew. No, you didn't, okay? Most people think this guy is a lunatic. He's not. He's going to turn out to be correct. The UK inflation is set to pass 10% this year. It's already past 10%. Whatever number they give, I double. And if you just go food shopping, it feels like 30 or 40%. It really does. Like, I can't. If you live in the UK, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. The energy prices, petrol, food, even in restaurants. I know people that work in restaurants as chefs and this sort of thing, and they're telling me that they're seeing a very obvious pattern, and that pattern is people come in and they're choosing the cheapest things on the menu because they're no longer cheap. People don't want to spend more money. People are clearly cutting back spending. They're eating more on site and doing their own food in the self-catering industry rather than coming into the restaurant every night of the week like they would a couple of years ago. So we're already north of 10%. We're already north of 20% most probably. And if we're not, then we're certainly very, very close to 20% and will certainly be over 20% by the end of this year. Gold mining stocks. This is an interesting one. Gold mining stocks, percentage at 52-week low, just crossed 25%. Whenever this has happened, it's always marked bottoms or local bottoms. So is gold about to get a nice rally? Perhaps. A bit more context on the inflation. Peter Schiff is saying for members that insist they'll bring inflation back down to 2%, in reality, most of the FOMC members will not live long enough to see a year where CPI only rises by 2%. Those days are gone. They're absolutely gone. Okay, this is what I've been saying the whole time. This is why I'm so confident in a pivot. They're not going to continue to raise rates. They're not going to aggressively raise rates. We might have seen a 75 basis point hike recently, but we're going to be getting close to a pivot. We're absolutely going to be getting close to a pivot because they want inflation. To illustrate, just before we move on to some charts, the la la land, okay, the cuckooville that we live in financially in this current climate, the Fed needs to raise rates as quickly as possible to tame inflation by sending us into a recession where they can then cut rates to save us from a recession. Let me just say that again. The Fed needs to raise rates as quickly as possible to tame inflation by sending us into a recession where they can then cut rates to save us from the recession. This is ludicrous. And the comment underneath, that's like taking 5 shots of beer at the bar and then, excuse me, that's like taking 5 shots at the bar and then driving home at 90 miles an hour to get home before you're drunk. I mean, why would you do it? It just doesn't make any sense. But that's the world we live in. I've got a clip that I'm about to edit in. I think I've left myself edit in clip. And you can just see that it's not just me that thinks the Fed's going to chicken out. Have a look at this.
The CPI stated rate of inflation is 8.5% now. That would mean that the U.S. 10-year Treasury rate would have to be 9%. Right. That would mean that the interest payment on federal, state, and local debt would triple. Traditionally, the 30-year fixed mortgage rate has traded at a premium to the U.S. 10-year Treasury, which means that 30-year fixed mortgage rates would have to go to 9.5%. Think what that would do to young people's ability to buy houses. If we had a period of real interest rates, it would certainly cure inflation, but it wouldn't cure inflation before it did amazing damage to various balance sheets. And so my suspicion is that as interest rates rise, before they even got to real yield levels, that the damage to the economy and the pain and anger that it would inflict among voters will cause the Fed and the political class to chicken out.
So as you can see, the Fed is most probably going to have to chicken out. It's going to have to pivot sooner rather than later. This stuff can't go on forever. I think we're getting closer and closer. And one of the reasons I'm so confident is because, look, $30.5 trillion of debt. Okay, this is a 3 with 13 zeros at the end of it. This is a 3 with 13 figures afterwards. They're running nearly 2 trillion in deficit. The price of gold should be at least 14,000 an ounce. And just look at this. Dollar to crypto ratio. If you hover over this, it will tell you at the top, up here. So if you keep your eye up here while I move my mouse down, you'll see the total US M2 money supply divided by the total market capitalization of cryptocurrencies. In 2013, there was $9,746 for every dollar in the crypto market. There's only 17.3 now. Okay, so despite the amount of printing that they do, okay, despite the amount of bad mouthing and bashing of crypto and all of that stuff and Bitcoin that they do, the truth and the reality of the situation is money is flowing out of the dollar and into the crypto industry, and particularly into Bitcoin. That's why Bitcoin is still the king. That's why Bitcoin goes down less than the altcoins, and that's why Bitcoin will continue to be the #1 by market cap. So let's take a look, reset this chart. Bitcoin, if it's going to do this weird sideways fractal, if it's going to snap back up, it really needs to do it in the next day or two, doesn't it? If not, it looks like we're going to be maybe chopping around, maybe dropping down into this cycle low. That's what's marked here, this blue line, the 60-day cycle low. So plus or minus 10%. Given the price action is so extreme to the downside, you would expect this low to form early rather than late. But can't really do much until we've got this, until we meet this date. So we'll see what happens in the meantime. Looking at the Dixie though, look at the dollar. So if you were following the channel, you know that we broke out of here. And I said that realistically that couldn't be the breakdown. We needed to have, I thought, hopefully a lower high. We've now got a higher high rolling over. We'll see what happens. Are we going to violate this parabola? It fits quite nicely at this point. So that's good to see. And if you look here, it looks like we've got another one of these bases. So really rare that the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, really rare that the 5th, anything from 4 upwards is usually the top. So, I mean, I've said before on this channel that 5, 6, I've even seen 7, but the higher up we go towards 6 or 7 bases, the more certain it becomes that we're going to break down. I would think we're going to break down soon. Can't help but notice how the stars are aligning. This line here is the Bitcoin 60-day cycle low. So are we about to see some sort of dollar collapse, which will catalyze the Bitcoin bull run? Remember, we're coming out of record levels of oversold territory, and whales are buying this dip. So it's going to be interesting to see. Take a quick look at the equities. This position's gone, so we don't need that anymore. Stopped out. Back to the drawing board on this one. We'll just sit around and wait for a bit, I think. See what happens. And take our medicine. We've got the gold. Gold is sort of half setting up for this trade and half not. It looks like it maybe wants to drop down a bit and then it can go. We'll see how that goes. Obviously it's under some pressure now because the dollar is bid, same as the equity markets, and silver we're still in. So is this going to form a double bottom? Maybe, who knows. Just let the stop do the worrying, see how hard we can push this trade. We've had a look at Bitcoin. Have a quick look at Ethereum. Ethereum has made it all the way down to this second level, so historically pretty cheap. Could it drop more? Yes. Will it? Who knows. One thing we do know is we're certainly very, very oversold on everything at the moment. So whilst the dollar's showing some strength, that will continue to put pressure on risk assets, but it won't be long now. We are getting closer every day. We're in June, so go out, enjoy the sun, take up a new hobby, start fishing, do whatever you got to do, but stay positive, stay healthy. If you found value here, I'd appreciate it if you could drop a like, subscribe if you're not already, follow me on Twitter, and I sincerely wish you all the best. Have a great day. Cheers.